Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Craftin' Up a Storm. I'm back in the crazy craft room and I'm doing some more wonderful fall projects for you guys. Today I'm part of a collaboration to DIY some fall signs for you. I picked up these wonderful stencils at Dollar Tree. They have these adhesive stencils that you can use over and over and over again. I love these. And they have some bigger stencils, traditional stencils. So I'm gonna take these and make some projects and make some signs. I'm also using some of the window clings. Very easy projects to recreate. Hopefully it inspires you. Let's get crafty. For this first project, I picked up these small wood signs from Hobby Lobby on clearance, maybe 28 cents each last year. And I took and painted them with the orange chalk paint on both sides, a couple of coats, probably three, definitely three on the side that had the words. Now I'm going to flick some paint on. I'm just using some acrylic paint, but I've got a lot of water in it to be able to get that movement very easily. And I'm flicking on probably is a better term, some of the brown on all of three of the signs. And I'm doing these two-sided, so I'm doing both sides. I added some white spots onto another sign. And then I added some of the, I think this is the scallion green paint onto another. And then I used some of the teal chalk paint on some of the other, just to add some color, not make them all exactly the same, and add some texture. Once everything was really good and dry, I went in with some Mod Podge because I'm gonna use these adhesive stencils that I got at Dollar Tree, and I don't want any of the spots to come up. So I put a good coat of Mod Podge all over each side, let that dry really, really well. Once I was done, I got these stencils out. These are made for pumpkin decorating, but they're really cool. I decided which ones I wanted to have on each side. I want them to be two-sided, and I want one side of all of them to be something more just fall, and the other side to kind of lean a little more toward Thanksgiving. That way I can have them out for a longer period of time and just flip them around and still use them for the entire fall season. So I chose which ones I wanted to have on what pumpkin and whether it was going to be landscape or portrait or what I was going to do. Once I had decided which stencil I wanted on all of them, I pulled the backing off the stencil. These are very, very thin stencils, and I think they're meant to just be used once. I'm going to try and use them as much as I can. I actually, after using them, felt pretty good about them. They were so thin that I was afraid they were going to stick together or bunch up, or the little intricate pieces on the inside of the words were going to, go wonky or tear off. You can see it kind of stuck to my fingers in the beginning, so I thought it was just going to roll up. But they actually went on. I did okay. They went right on. Everything laid pretty flat. I was more impressed than I thought I was going to be. I was a little worried at first. I just made sure I pressed it flat very gently, and they went on really well. I used some painter's tape along the edges of those that didn't go all the way to the edge so that I didn't have a line on the side, and I pounced on some brown acrylic paint. Super easy. Very good coverage because they're so thin. Once I had the entire front covered, I pulled the stencil off right away before the paint dried. And some of them, because they're so thin, were a little hard to peel up, but not too bad. The ones that went all the way to the edge were definitely easy. But I was worried that this was just gonna fall apart and tear as I pulled it up. I'm having to pull it up pretty good, and it's stretching, and it still didn't tear. So far I was really liking these. I put it down on a piece of parchment paper right away and sprayed some water on it to clean it off because, again, I wanted to save these and try and use them at least a couple of times each. They're super cute little stencils. And I know the adhesive on the back may, start to, lessen so it's not so sticky, which was fine with me. I can tape these down and I think they would still work just fine. I put it on some of the shiny paper that they came with in order to let that dry, and that's how I stored it. Once I finished putting the stencil on both sides of all the little signs, I'm gonna go in and distress, and instead of sanding, I am paint distressing. So I'm using that same brown acrylic paint and I'm going around the edges, just right along the edge and then really deep into the corners and even onto the edges of the corners of the sides. And then after I was done with all of that, I did go back and kind of dry brush some of the sides of the pumpkin to add some texture on the sides. I wanted each of them to look slightly different. So on this one, I added a little Spanish moss and a brown raffia bow to the front. On a few others, I did add a stem to the top of all of these. My favorite pumpkin stem. I think all of my pumpkins have this stem. I used that vase filler that you see right there on the side with a little Spanish moss. And I made each of the signs into a pumpkin by adding that stem. Onto another pumpkin, I added a piece of floral leaf, just an extra floral leaf from a floral pick that I had used. I think I cut it down a little bit so it wasn't so big for the pumpkin. And I added on to the side so you could see it no matter which way it was turned. And then I used some of that pitberry on the last pumpkin. Because I wrapped it, I had already done the Spanish moss and then I wrapped it around. It looked like it was just wrapped around the stem and it didn't look very organic. So once I had wrapped it, I added and filled in some of the space with some of that, more of that Spanish moss. But that way they all have a little something unique to them. And there are my little pumpkin signs. This video is part of the Signs of Fall collaboration. The host is Amanda at 6 Kids and a Glue Gun, and the co-hosts are Shantell at Crafty Hints and Brenda at Rustic and Lace DIY. I will have their channels linked in my description, and I love the wonderful ideas they have. They are such talented ladies. If you click on the playlist, which will also be in the description, you will get so many more Signs of Fall inspiration videos. For this next project, I'm going to keep on going with the stencils from Dollar Tree, and I picked up this shiplap house blank. I'm going to remove the hanger, and I want to lighten this up a little bit and have a lighter color to stencil on top of. So I'm going to paint it with some ivory chalk paint. And this little stencil from Dollar Tree is so cute. Hello Pumpkin. It's going to look so cute on this house. I really did love this project. Here's that ivory chalk paint, and I don't want to paint it a solid color. I'm going to magically dry brush paint on it. I did several dry brush coats because I do want to lighten it up a lot, but I don't want it to be perfect. Here is that stencil, and this is more of a traditional thick stencil that can definitely be used over and over again. And just think about the hello on top will go on so many different seasons and projects. I taped the stencil down to my house, and I also taped off the top of the pumpkin stem so that I could pounce on and not get that orange in where that stem is going to be. I used one of the paint daubers and I pounced on some orange chalk paint, and then I went over the hello up at the top with some brown acrylic paint. Now because of the shape of this house, I didn't have it glued down on the sides really good. So you'll see when I take this off that it is not absolutely clean and crisp for the stencil. And I think I could do better if I had it taped down on the sides. However, I was fine with it. I like imperfect anyway. But I did go back in on some of the places that just kind of ran, and I used a very tiny detail brush and just brushed in and smoothed out the sides on the flourish on the side of each of those words. And just filled it in a little bit. And then I cleaned off my stencil and put it back down, and now I'm going to put a little red, it's kind of a pinkish red, over the hearts on the side. Those were very easy. I didn't have to tape anything off. You'll see I taped off the pumpkin and then right above the stem in the words so that I don't get any of the green paint where I don't want it. I did the pumpkin stem, and then afterward I did the word pumpkin with that same brown paint. Because I want this entire sign to look weathered and rustic, I'm going to dry brush that same ivory paint now over my stencil because it looks much more new and more perfect than I want it to look. I want it to look worn and weathered. So I'm just going to very lightly dry brush over the top of it, and that's going to give it that weathered and rustic look for the words. And this is just a preference that I have. You decorate your crafts exactly how you want to. You do not have to distress them. You do not have to weather them. Whatever colors you choose and whatever style you choose is going to be best for you. Once I had that lightened up a little bit, I did decide to go, of course, around the edge and distress with the paint the entire edge of the house. So I went around the chimney, I went around the entire edge, and I'm just dabbing it on very organically, very loose. I'm not worried about it being perfect. I'm just kind of stippling that brush along the edge to get that distressed look to the edge of this. Now I made a pinch bow. I call them pinch bows just because I took a strip of ribbon, made it into a loop, pinched it in the middle with some wire. It doesn't have any tails. It's a bow without any tails. So I glued down the little pinch bow, and this is some fall ribbon with a wire around the edge from Dollar Tree. And then I made just a simple shoelace bow with the raffia. And that's the hula skirt raffia that I pick up a hula skirt every summer just so I have it for the fall. I trimmed the tails and I put the hanger back on, and this is done. What do you guys think? For my last project, I picked up this, it's a It's one of the Décor from Dollar Tree, and they're really actually pretty cute on their own. But I just didn't, for some reason, get an image of it to begin with. But it's looks like a pumpkin, and it's got two stripes down the side. They're raised lines down the side, and I took those off, and I wanted to reuse them. However, I ruined them ungluing them from the side. So I did end up painting the sign with the orange chalk paint to cover up the words that were already on it. And I don't remember what those words were. Now I'm just distressing it with a little of that brown acrylic paint, and I'm going to use a window cling. Originally, I wanted to use this window cling. I love the teal against it, Season of Change. However, because those lines are no longer on the side, I don't have them to use. This is a bit small now for this sign. So I ended up using the Welcome Autumn. I had to pivot a little bit and rethink how I wanted to do it, but these are all from the same window cling from Dollar Tree. Now I'm showing you that I like to cut it in half when I am putting it on shiplap so it doesn't cover the groove between the boards. So to show you what I'm doing, I place the window cling where I want it to be, and then I hold it in place and use something. I'm using a piece of a broken little spatula. And I'm just making a groove on it or a crease on it so that I know where I need to cut. And that is where my line is gonna go. So now I covered it in Mod Podge, and I will add those pieces back on. Once I had it on, I wanted to decorate it just a little bit more. And these window clings, you can kind of cut up and go around the edges and use them how you want. So I wanted one more leaf over the top of that. I think I had a little mess up on one corner of my pumpkin, so I wanted to cover it up, and I put another leaf over the top of it. I went over all of it again with a little of that acrylic distressing paint and to distress it. And now I want to go back in and add something on the side of these. So I decided to use twine. So I wanted to see how that looked. I wrapped the twine around. I tried a couple of different things, and twine was what I liked best. So I like the look of that, but instead of just wrapping the twine, I am going to glue a piece at the top on the back. And then I will wrap this piece around the front and cut it and glue it to the back at the bottom. So instead of wrapping it and having it double looped around, I just cut the pieces. I did this on both sides of my sign so that I had twine on both sides, kind of like the original looked. And at some point, though I lost footage of that, I added a stem to the top and a raffia bow and made it a pumpkin again. So let me know what you guys think of this little easy sign as well. Here are all of my projects together. Let me know which one was your favorite down in the comments. I enjoyed bringing you these wonderful fall creative projects. If you liked this video, hit the thumbs up button and consider subscribing to my channel. I would love to have you as part of my crafty family. Here is another video I hope you'll enjoy, and come back and see more crafty videos. Thank you and have a great day.